Okay, have you ever started a new routine? Like, super motivated to stick with it, and then, yeah, only to watch it totally fizzle out, like after a week or two?
Yeah.
I think we've all been there.
Definitely.
So frustrating. Right?
It is.
Well, today we are diving into the science of lasting change to understand why it is so hard. Even when we're totally motivated to make it happen.
Yeah.
We're going to be taking a deep dive into this article.
Okay.
With the same name, The Science of Lasting Change.
Interesting.
Get ready to unravel some of the mysteries of our brains, those sneaky neurotransmitters, and even, I know, the impact of decision fatigue.
Yeah, okay. Interesting.
Buckle up.
Yeah.
It's going to be a wild ride.
I'm ready.
Well, I am really excited to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to be talking about this article.
Okay.
And I think it does a great job of laying out this interplay between, our desire to make progress, but also our brains just, inherent need to be efficient.
It's fascinating.
Right. It's like our brains are saying new habits.
Yeah.
Like, no, that sounds like a lot of work. Let's just stick with Netflix.
Well, there's actually some truth to that.
Is there really?
Yeah. Our brains,
Tell me more.
they're so complex.
Okay.
They only account for about 2% of our body weight.
Wow. That's small.
It is, but they consume a whopping 20% of our daily energy.
20%?
Yeah.
It's like
That's
having this high-maintenance house guest that, eats all the snacks and never offers to do the dishes.
That's a great analogy. I like that.
Right.
Yeah, and because the brain is such an energy hog, it's constantly looking for ways to conserve energy.
Makes sense.
And that's where habits come in.
Okay, so tell me about habits then.
Think of our established habits as those well-paved superhighways in your brain, smooth, familiar routes that require minimal
effort. Yeah. Makes sense.
So it's like cruising down the highway.
Okay.
Using hardly any gas.
Oh, okay. So it's hitting the easy button for our brains.
Precisely.
Okay.
But new habits, those are more like forging a path.
Okay.
Through a dense jungle, it's energy intensive. Yeah. Requires a ton of focus.
The focus, yeah.
Definitely not the easy button.
Not the easy button. So our brains are basically saying, stick to the routine, it's cheaper.
Well, yeah, in a way, neuroimaging studies actually show that using these familiar neural pathways uses less glucose.
What is glucose?
It's the brain's primary fuel source.
Okay, got it.
Than forming new ones. So it's all about conserving those precious resources.
I see.
Yeah.
But hold on a sec. What about that initial burst of motivation we feel when we start something new, like that new year, new me energy?
Yes.
There's got to be more to it than just willpower, right?
You're absolutely right.
Okay, good.
That initial excitement actually stems from dopamine.
Dopamine, okay.
It's often called the motivation and reward neurotransmitter.
Right.
When we experience something novel or rewarding or even just anticipate it, our brain releases this surge of dopamine.
Okay.
And that reinforces the learning process. It encourages us to repeat that behavior.
Okay, so dopamine's like our brain's own personal cheerleader.
Yeah.
Showering us with confetti every time we do something new and exciting.
That's a great way to put it, right.
But then, I'm guessing, as that novelty wears off, so does the dopamine, right?
Exactly.
And that's when things start to get tricky.
As the novelty decreases, so does that dopamine surge.
Yeah.
So sustaining those new habits without any external reinforcement can feel like such an uphill battle.
It does.
But it's not a personal failing.
Okay.
It's just our brain chemistry doing its thing.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah.
So we've got this efficiency principle kind of working against us. And then dopamine's fickle nature adding to the challenge. The article dives into these two really relatable stories to illustrate this. So we've got Sarah who's trying to stick with this morning greens powder routine. And then we have Mike who is cutting back on evening drinks.
Got it.
And so their stories kind of highlight how these factors play out in everyday life. So take Sarah, for example. She was super motivated at first. Her greens powder was right there on the counter. She had a clear routine. And she even felt that immediate energy boost.
Got it.
But then those subtle shifts started happening.
Like what kind of shifts?
Right, exactly. What kind of shifts derailed her morning ritual? Because I have a feeling a lot of us have been there.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So for one, her once structured mornings started to get a bit blended like later bedtimes led to later wake-ups.
I've been there.
And then those early morning video calls started creeping into her schedule.
Totally.
And let's be honest, who hasn't fallen into that trap of checking their inbox before even getting out of bed?
I feel very seen right now.
I know, right?
That just one quick email syndrome.
That's a problem.
Can really snowball.
It can.
Yeah.
It can. And think about what those changes do to our cortisol levels.
Okay, so what is cortisol?
Cortisol is our stress hormone.
Okay.
And it's naturally higher in the morning to help us wake up.
That makes sense.
But when we kickstart our day with stress, whether it's from work demands or like the blue light from our phones, we're throwing off that natural rhythm.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So how does this all tie back to like dopamine and our ability to stick with?
Okay, well, studies show that elevated cortisol levels can actually suppress dopamine production.
Really?
Yeah.
So we're starting the day with a stress-induced cortisol spike, but we're also reducing our brain's ability to feel motivated and rewarded by our new habit.
Right.
It's a double whammy.
It is.
No wonder the greens powder started to look less appealing.
Right.
So the article also mentioned that environmental changes also played a role.
Yes.
In Sarah's habit relapse, right?
Exactly. Our brains love efficiency, remember?
Yes.
So if our environment isn't set up to support our new habit, even in subtle ways, it can create friction. And make it so much harder to stick with it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So what happened to Sarah's environment?
Well,
that made it harder.
She started working from home.
Okay.
And this seemingly simple change had a big impact on her habit maintenance.
Okay.
The article actually refers to it as boundary blurring.
Boundary blurring?
Uh-huh.
Tell me more about this phenomenon.
When your home becomes your office, the lines between work life and personal life can get, well, blurry.
Yeah.
The kitchen counter, where Sarah used to have her greens ritual, is now also her workspace.
Oh, I see.
Her bedroom, where she should be relaxing, is just a few steps away from her laptop.
Yeah.
So there's no physical separation between work and personal life.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like our brains can't shift gears as easily when our physical environment's constantly reminding us of work.
Exactly. And that can lead to something the article calls time compression.
Time compression. Okay, I'm listening.
So we end up working longer hours because there's no commute to kind of create that separation between work and home.
Right.
And that means our morning routines often shrink as we try to like squeeze in
more work
tasks. It's like the workday expands to fill all available space.
It does.
Right.
It often feels that way.
Yeah.
And then on top of the time compression, there's also the issue of decision overload.
Oh, decision overload. Tell me about that.
When every space in our home serves multiple purposes, we're constantly making these choices about how to use that space and what to focus on. So that just adds to the cognitive load. Further depleting our willpower. And making it even harder to stick with those new habits.
So essentially, working from home can turn our brains into a jumbled mess.
It can.
Making it tough to maintain those clear boundaries and routines that support our healthy habits.
It definitely makes it a lot more challenging.
Oh, man. But
the good news is that by understanding these challenges, we can start to design strategies to overcome them.
Okay. Phew.
Yeah.
Glad to hear there's hope, because so far it's sounded pretty bleak.
So we've talked about boundary blurring, time compression, and decision overload. It does sound like a recipe for habit disaster.
It can be.
The article also talks about something called the neuroscience of morning decisions.
Yes.
What is that all about?
This is where things get really fascinating.
Okay, I'm ready.
Research suggests that the first 60 minutes after we wake up are crucial for setting our daily rhythm and influencing our decision-making for the rest of the day.
Wow, okay.
Our brains are actually primed.
So we're like mental ninjas first thing in the morning. But there's got to be a catch, right?
There is. This cognitive advantage disappears if we immediately expose ourselves to stress, screen time, or decision overload.
So that quick email check. We're scrolling through social media first thing in the morning is actually sabotaging our brain's peak performance time.
It can, yes.
Oh, man.
Our brains crave efficiency, remember?
Yeah.
When we bombard them with stressful input first thing in the morning, we're essentially depleting those precious cognitive resources before we even have a chance to use them for our own goals.
Wow. That is a sobering thought.
It is.
So, okay, Sarah's morning routine got derailed by a combination of factors. So shifting routines, boundary blurring, and those sneaky morning decisions that just zap our willpower.
They do.
Let's shift gears now.
Okay.
And talk about Mike's evening struggle with alcohol.
Okay.
What's happening in his brain
that
makes it so difficult to resist that evening drink?
Mike's story really shines a light on the impact of stress and what we call decision fatigue.
Decision fatigue, okay.
So by the end of the day, our willpower reserves are often running low, and our brains crave those familiar, comforting routines. And for Mike, that comfort came in the form of a drink.
It's like our brains are saying, we've made enough decisions today, just give us the easy reward.
Exactly. Right. And to understand why that happens, we really need to delve into the science of decision fatigue.
Decision fatigue. Yeah. I've definitely felt that.
I think we all have.
What is the science behind this willpower drain?
It's quite remarkable.
Okay.
Our capacity for willpower operates much like a battery that drains throughout the day.
Excellent.
Each decision we make, no matter how small, uses up a little bit of that willpower energy.
Okay.
And research shows that our decision-making capability can decrease by up to 35%.
35%?
Yeah.
Wow.
After we've made multiple choices.
So by the end of a long day filled with meetings, emails, and just life's little curveballs.
It's tough.
Our willpower is practically on fumes.
Pretty much.
Right.
And to make matters worse, our glucose levels, which fuel our brain's decision-making center, they tend to dip as the day goes on.
Dip as the day goes on.
Okay. Add in the fact that stress hormones can impair our executive function.
Executive function.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's no wonder we're more prone to giving into those cravings.
Yeah.
And falling back on old habits in the evening.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
So essentially, both Sarah and Mike were struggling most during their respective critical periods.
Critical periods, yeah. So for Sarah, it was that first hour after waking when her cortisol was naturally higher and her brain was most susceptible to decision overload. And for Mike, it was like those last 90 minutes.
It seems like it.
Of his workday when that decision fatigue was at its peak.
Exactly.
And it's important to note that decision fatigue can influence all sorts of choices we make throughout the day.
Yes.
Not just our morning routines or evening habits.
Like, think about those times you've skipped a healthy meal.
Oh, yeah.
Because you were too busy or stressed to cook.
Totally.
Or those late night snacking sessions. When your willpower is at its lowest.
To the best of us.
It's often that decision fatigue driving those choices.
It really is.
It's all making sense now. We've got this
It is fascinating.
Complex interplay of our brain's need for efficiency.
Yeah.
The ups and downs of dopamine. And the draining effects.
It's a lot.
Of decision fatigue.
It is.
It's enough to make you want to give up on change altogether.
I understand that sentiment.
I know.
But don't despair.
Okay, phew. Glad to hear it.
Yeah, the article doesn't just highlight the challenges. It also offers...
It offers what?
Some practical strategies for building more resilient habits.
Right.
And that's what we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, I'm definitely ready for some actionable solutions because so far,
I hear
we've just kind of been focusing on the problems.
Right.
So listeners, stick with us as we unpack the 3 pillars of building resilient habits.
Okay.
And how to make lasting change a reality.
Awesome.
Coming up next.
All right. So are you ready to move from understanding the problem to actually uncovering some solutions?
Absolutely. All ears hit me with those strategies for building those like unbreakable habits.
Okay. Well, the article outlines this 3-pronged approach. They call it the 3 pillars of resilient habits.
3 pillars. Okay.
Energy management. Environmental design. And recovery protocol.
3 pillars. Sounds solid. Let's start with energy management.
Okay.
What does that even look like in practice?
It's all about being mindful of how you use your willpower throughout the day. And we've already established that willpower is like a battery that drains over time.
Makes sense.
So instead of relying just on grit and determination, we need to be strategic about when and how we expend that energy.
So it's like creating a willpower budget almost.
Exactly.
Spending it wisely on the things that matter most.
Yes, and that means understanding our individual energy peaks and valleys.
Okay.
Like, when are we naturally most alert and focused?
Yeah.
When do those willpower slumps tend to hit?
That makes sense.
Once we know our patterns, we can start designing our routines accordingly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So for someone like Sarah, who is struggling with her morning routine,
yes,
what are some energy management strategies that she could try?
Well, the article suggests what they call a night before protocol.
Night before protocol. Okay.
And this involves preparing your environment the night before to minimize decision-making in the morning.
Got it.
So for Sarah, that might mean like setting out her greens powder, a glass, and a water bottle right next to the sink.
Okay.
The idea is to eliminate any friction that might make her second-guess the routine when she's still groggy.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. It's like setting yourself up for success before you even go to sleep.
Precisely. And then in the morning, it's all about creating what the article calls a morning sanctuary.
Ooh, a morning sanctuary.
Uh-huh.
I'm already feeling zen just hearing those words. What does that look like?
Think of it as designating a specific space in your home solely for your morning routine. A work-free zone. Keep it clutter-free, visually appealing, and stocked with the items you need for your morning ritual.
So it's like creating this little oasis of calm
exactly
amidst the potential chaos of the day.
Precisely. And to make those first few minutes even easier, they suggest incorporating what's called the 2-minute rule, but with a twist.
Okay, I've heard of the 2-minute rule before. Isn't that about just starting small with any new habit?
It is.
Okay.
But they suggest a tech-free twist for morning routines.
Okay, so no screens for the first 2 minutes of wake time.
Yeah.
Okay, so you use those 2 minutes to fully engage in your morning ritual.
Exactly.
Whatever it may be.
Interesting. So it's like giving your brain that buffer between sleep and the digital deluge.
Exactly. It allows you to ease into the day with intention rather than immediately getting sucked into that vortex of emails and notifications.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Those are some fantastic tips.
Thank you.
For managing energy in the morning.
Yeah.
But what about those evening challenges?
Okay.
Like Mike's struggle with alcohol.
Right.
What are some ways to like boost our willpower and resist those end-of-day temptations?
Well, for evening resilience, the article suggests focusing on 3 key things.
3 key things. Okay.
Physical reset activities.
Okay.
Transition rituals.
Got it.
And recovery periods.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break those down for me. What do those look like in practice?
Well, physical reset activities can be anything.
Okay.
That helps you transition from work mode to relaxation mode.
Okay, got it. A short walk, some stretching, a quick yoga session.
Okay.
Anything that kind of gets you out of your head and back into your body.
I can see how that would be helpful.
Yeah.
It's like sending a signal to your brain that it's time to unwind and recharge.
Right. And then transition rituals are all about creating that separation. Between work time and leisure time.
Okay.
And something as simple as lighting a candle.
Oh, nice.
Making a cup of herbal tea.
Okay.
Or listening to a calming playlist.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like creating a little closing ceremony for the work day.
Exactly. And then finally, recovery periods.
Recovery periods,
are about giving yourself permission to truly unwind and recharge.
Okay. Yeah.
Whether it's a hot bath, a good book, or simply some quiet time, it's essential to replenish those depleted willpower reserves.
So those are all about just giving yourself permission to just really chill.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like it. Okay. So we've covered energy management strategies for both morning and evening.
Yes.
Let's move on to the second pillar.
Okay.
Environmental design.
All right.
How can we actually tweak our surroundings to make it easier to stick with our new habits?
So this is where we can get a bit clever.
Okay, I'm ready.
And use our brain's natural tendencies to our advantage.
Okay.
Remember how our brains love efficiency?
Yes.
And familiarity?
Totally.
We can actually design our environment to support our desired actions.
I like that.
And make it just slightly harder to engage in those unwanted behaviors.
I'm starting to see how this works. Give me some examples.
Okay. For morning success.
Okay.
The article recommends 3 key strategies.
Okay.
So designate a morning-only space.
Morning-only space, okay.
Remove work-related items from your morning area.
Got it.
And then set out all your tools the night before.
Okay.
So it's all about minimizing friction.
Yeah.
And making it as effortless as possible.
Effortless.
To do the things you want to do.
So basically make it as easy as possible to do the things you want to do.
Exactly.
And then harder to get sidetracked by distractions.
That's it.
Got it.
And then for evening resilience, the focus kind of shifts, creating distance from triggers and designing alternative reward paths.
Okay, let's talk triggers.
Okay.
What are some practical ways to create that distance?
Well, it depends on the trigger.
Okay.
If your trigger is something like alcohol, try storing it in a less accessible place.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly.
Yeah. Makes sense.
If your phone is your trigger, try leaving it in another room during designated relaxation time.
I like it. Those are great tips.
Thank you.
What about designing alternative reward paths?
Okay, so that's about finding healthier ways to satisfy those cravings that often pop up at the end of a long day.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So instead of reaching for that glass of wine or that bag of chips, maybe you try like a relaxing herbal tea, a warm bath, or like a soothing aromatherapy diffuser.
So it's about swapping out the unhealthy reward with something that's like equally pleasurable.
Yeah.
But more aligned with our goals.
Precisely. It's like hacking our brain's reward system.
I love it.
Yeah.
To work for us, not against us.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered energy management.
We have.
Environmental design. Now for the final pillar. Recovery protocol. What happens when we inevitably stumble and fall off the habit wagon? Because, let's be honest, it's bound to happen at some point.
It is.
How do we get back on track?
This is where self-compassion and resilience really come into play.
I like that.
So lapses are not failures. They're valuable data points.
They're points,
They're opportunities to learn and adjust our approach.
That's a very helpful reframing.
Yeah.
But what do we actually DO in those moments?
Yeah.
When we realize we've slipped up, how do we get back on track?
Well, the article outlines what they call a 24-hour reset process.
A 24-hour reset.
Okay.
It involves 3 key steps.
3 key steps, okay.
Immediate action.
Okay.
Root cause analysis.
Got it.
And strategic restart.
Okay, let's unpack those steps.
Okay.
What does immediate action look like?
It's about taking steps to reset your environment right away.
Okay.
Don't wait till tomorrow.
Okay.
Do it now.
Okay.
So if you had that extra glass of wine, put the bottle away and pour yourself a glass of water.
Got it.
If you've been mindlessly scrolling social media for an hour, put your phone on airplane mode and step away.
Okay. So it's about interrupting the pattern as quickly as possible and regaining that sense of control.
You got it.
I like it.
And then once you've taken that immediate action,
it's
time for some root cause analysis.
So now we play detective.
We do.
And try to figure out what triggered the lapse. Precisely. Like what was going on in your environment?
Okay.
How were your energy levels?
Okay.
Were there any specific emotions or thoughts that led to the slip up?
It's like we're piecing together all the clues to understand the underlying cause of the behavior.
And the more we understand about what caused the lapse, the better equipped we'll be to prevent it. From happening again.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So once we've done the detective work, then it's time for strategic restart.
Exactly. This is where we put those lessons learned into action.
Okay.
So we rebuild our morning or evening sanctuary.
Okay.
Reestablish those cues that support our desired habits and maybe reach out to our support system for extra accountability.
So it's like hitting the reset button.
Yeah.
But this time we're doing it with more intention.
You got it.
And awareness.
Precisely.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah. And the key takeaway here is that this entire process is about embracing imperfection.
Embracing imperfection,
So lasting change isn't about never slipping up.
Right.
It's about having a system in place that makes recovery almost automatic.
Yeah.
And growth inevitable.
That's a really powerful message.
It is.
I like that a lot. So we've covered the 3 pillars of building resilient habits, energy management, environmental design, and recovery protocol. What's the most important message you want our listeners to walk away with today?
I think the key takeaway is that lasting change is absolutely possible. But it does require us to understand how our brains work.
Makes sense.
And design systems that support our goals. So it's not about willpower alone. It's about working with our brain's natural tendencies.
I love that. It's about making our brains our allies. Not our enemies.
Exactly.
Any final thoughts or challenges for our listeners?
I would encourage everyone listening to think about just one small change they can make to their environment or their routine today
okay,
that would support a habit that they want to build or break. It doesn't have to be a huge overhaul, just a small tweak that kind of sets you up for success. Remember, even the smallest step in the right direction can lead to lasting change.
That's such a great challenge.
Thank you.
So listeners, take a moment to reflect on what that small change could be for you.
Yes.
And remember, we're all in this together.
We are.
Lapses are a normal part of the process.
They are.
What matters is that we keep learning, keep adjusting, and keep moving forward.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time.